Today we will see just how disgusting, twisted, and terrifying human beings can truly become. Yes, maybe even around you there are psychopaths or serial killers walking freely, people whose smiles look completely normal on the outside, but inside their minds hides a monster. The kind of monsters who, if given the chance, can turn someone's life into a nightmare. And the scariest part is, you might pass by them every single day without ever realizing how dangerous they really are. For example, this incident started with an emergency call. On the other side of the phone, a woman with a trembling voice said that a girl was being held captive inside a house with a chain around her neck. At first, the police found it hard to believe because this wasn't a movie, this was real life. But just a few minutes later, when officers arrived at the scene, they realized the truth was far more horrifying than they had imagined. The entire house was unnaturally silent. The windows were boarded shut with wood. The doors were screwed closed, as if someone inside was being hidden away from the rest of the world. Then suddenly, a terrified woman's scream came from a broken upstairs window. The police immediately understood that someone was truly trapped inside. When they finally entered the house, what they saw looked like something straight out of a psychopathic horror movie. A woman stood there with a heavy metal chain tied around her neck. And the chain wasn't just wrapped around a pole, it had been permanently bolted into the ground with special metal fittings. Someone had carefully planned and built a system to imprison another human being like an animal. To the police, the entire house felt like a torture chamber. And this is where the most horrifying part begins. During the investigation, officers discovered that the man had not only imprisoned the woman, but had also completely broken her mentally. Every day he threatened her, beat her, and told her that if she ever tried to escape, he would kill her. Later, the woman told police that she had become so terrified that eventually she believed she would never leave that place alive again. But the monster's true face had still not fully appeared. Police later discovered that even worse things were happening inside that house. The terrifying man's name was Moises May. He forced the woman to sleep with other men for money. He had kidnapped a human being and slowly turned her into a mentally broken slave. A living person was being controlled and destroyed piece by piece. But what makes this even more terrifying is that if you saw this man outside, he would look completely ordinary. And that's the scariest thing of all, because real monsters often cannot be recognized. They walk among us looking exactly like normal people. Another horrifying incident happened in Ohio, America. At first, police thought it was just a normal kidnapping or assault case. But within a few hours, they realized they had stepped into a twisted, sick, and terrifying world. Everything began when a young woman told police that a couple she knew had lured her into their compound. There, she was beaten, threatened, and brutally abused. Somehow she managed to escape and run to the police for help. But even then, officers had no idea how dark this case really was. As the investigation continued, police arrived at the hidden compound belonging to the suspects, TJ and his girlfriend Morgan Smith. But by the time officers got there, the couple had already fled into the woods. What they left behind inside the house sent chills through the officers' bodies. When police entered, they first noticed something strange. It looked like an ordinary playpen where children play. But when they got closer, they realized it was actually a cage. A wooden gate had been installed on top, and the sides were tightly secured with zip ties so nobody inside could escape. And inside that cage was a 3-year-old child. There were rotten milk bottles, disgusting trash, and conditions showing the child had been trapped there for hours. As officers began removing the restraints, they were horrified because they were witnessing with their own eyes just how cruel human beings could become. As they searched the house further, police discovered even more terrifying things. Sharp knives, drug equipment, and dangerous objects were scattered everywhere, things that could have killed the children at any moment. The entire house felt like a poisonous nightmare. And in the middle of that horrifying environment, innocent children were being raised. Finally, police found a strange journal containing writings about punishment, control, and twisted rules. That's when investigators realized this wasn't just an abuse case. It was an entire dark and broken family world where people had slowly lost every piece of their humanity. And it didn't end there. Another terrifying incident happened in Ohio. At first, police believed it was just a robbery or murder case. But they had no idea that the investigation would slowly lead them into the world of a serial killer. A man who entered people's homes and murdered them so brutally that he seemed less like a human being and more like a hunting animal. The case began when a woman named Sarah Evans entered her friend's house and suddenly screamed in horror. Lying before her was the blood-covered body of 59-year-old Benny King. The entire room was soaked in blood. Blood on the walls, blood on the bed, even blood stains stretching down the hallway. Police later discovered that the elderly man had not been stabbed once or twice, but 33 times. Investigators realized the attack had started in the bedroom. Benny had somehow managed to crawl into the hallway in an attempt to save himself. But the killer followed him and finished him there. The wounds on his hands showed that he fought desperately for his life until his final moments, but the truly disturbing part was something else. Although the house had been trashed, almost nothing was stolen. Only the kitchen cabinets had been opened, as if someone had been frantically searching for money. That's when police realized the killer was probably looking for cash. During the investigation, two brothers came under suspicion, Justin and Johnny. They were known in the area for drug problems and financial troubles. Just days earlier, the elderly man had threatened them with a gun and forced them out of his house. Naturally, police suspicion immediately focused on them. But then even stranger details emerged. Around the time of the murder, witnesses had seen an old gold-colored Hummer speeding away from the area so fast that the sound of the tires shook the entire street. Inside the vehicle was a young man. Later, police learned that a local man known as Jay Bird drove a Hummer of the exact same color, and Jay Bird was actually Justin. Everything seemed to point directly toward him: drugs, money, past conflicts, the mysterious vehicle. Every clue connected perfectly. But police still didn't realize this was more than just one murder. Because only weeks later, another killing happened on the other side of town with the exact same brutal style. The same horrifying bloodshed, the same terrifying pattern. And that's when police realized they might actually be hunting a serial killer. Sadly, thousands of twisted and mentally disturbed people like this walk among us every day wearing the masks of ordinary humans. It's almost impossible to know how dark and terrifying someone truly is inside. So always stay careful and protect yourself and your loved ones. Thank you, your hands, Hato Jason, nice.